Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to be back with IJS, and Happy New Year, happy fresh air wherever you are. Hope you're feeling warm if you're in a cold place and you're finding comfort. Really looking forward to this time because I feel like we're in another bubble of transition, which we can often be guided to right before Rosh Chodesh. We have the new moon coming up this week. And so I wanted to take some time to really honor this transition that we're having right now. We're closing up the month of Tevet, which was this transition between the darkness and the light of Kislev, and we had Hanukkah, and then we have the days shifting, the weather starting to warm a bit as we go into Shvat. And of course, this has one of my favorite holidays, Tu B'Shvat. And so here we are in this in between, and I wanted to invite us to plant some seeds for this coming month together. And so I want to name here that I'm a millennial, and we have this reputation of moving fast, and we're conditioned to wanting things instantaneously. But I've been finding that this isn't really working for me. And I think a lot of us in our world might find us in that quickness, that busyness of life. And so when we come to arrive on our seat, our mat, our prayer space, wherever we might be, maybe that's a place for us to pause, to evaluate differently, to be more present. And I'm personally on a mission to take things a little bit slower. And where do I turn to when I'm trying to understand, well, how do I do that? And what could that look like? And where are examples of that? I turn to our tradition. I turn to what our ancestors have done for hundreds and hundreds of years. I turn to the wisdom of our earth. And that is exactly what Shvat, that we're about to enter into, is here to remind us. To remind us to take time, to observe and learn from nature, to have patience, to plant seeds and allow them to grow. And we are just about 2 weeks away from this holiday, but this has been so present for me. And how can I start to plant those seeds now? How can I be in a place of willingness, of waiting, of watching, of not just, okay, the day is here and there it is, but things take time. And so I want to share a little story about Honi, the circle maker. And maybe you're familiar. This is a really great story of our tradition from many, many years ago. And I'll also, before we get into the story, also just name, for those who might not know, the holiday of Tu B'Shvat is our celebration of trees. We count the trees, we celebrate their new year. It's essentially their birthday. And back in the olden times, the best way to keep track of the ages of trees was by having one day for all of them and recognizing, okay, these trees are this many years old, these trees are this many years old. And we do that so that we can be in harmony with what the trees need and how to best take care of them. If you're familiar with the practice of rest, of Shemitah, we know that in the seventh year, we allow the ground to rejuvenate. So this counting process is really important. And being people of the earth and of the moon, we always want to maintain that harmony. So I like to think of, excuse me, I like to think of Tu B'Shvat as this reminder of, oh yes, we are earth people always. And so there's this story in our tradition about this man named Honi. And I want to bring that in today to invite us into, how might I be planting seeds going into Shvat? How might I be planting seeds in my life at this moment of time? And we've just turned a corner. We've just celebrated the new year. And maybe for some of us, big New Year celebration is Rosh Hashanah or your birthday or any other time. But on the Gregorian calendar, as we follow the sun, it can feel like a big moment. It can feel like another marker of transition. So we're still in this newness energy, and it's a perfect time to plant seeds. And so I'll tell you this story about Honi. And the story comes from Tanit 23. And the Gemara relates this story about Honi. And it was Rabbi Yochanan who said, all the days of the life of that righteous man Honi, he was distressed over the meaning of this particular verse. And the verse was, when the divine brought back those who returned to Zion, we were like those who dream. And he said to himself, is there really a person who can sleep and dream for 70 years? How is it possible to compare the 70-year exile in Babylon to a dream? One day, he was walking along the road when he saw a certain man planting a carob tree. And Honi said to him, this tree, after how many years will it bear fruit? The man said to him, it will not produce fruit until 70 years have passed. And Honi said to him, is it obvious to you that you will live 70 years, that you will expect to benefit from this tree? And the man said to him, in a whole grove of carob trees, he said, just as my ancestors planted for me, I too am planting for my descendants. And what I love about that story is that it demonstrates that willingness, not just to be patient, not just to expect something right away, but to be thinking of life beyond ourselves, life beyond this moment. I hear a message of mindful attention of who and what's around you. I hear a message of non-attachment, of not being attached to when something will come to fruition, but rather being present for the journey. And of course, when we think about our environment and we think about the generations that we hope to have come, we want to have a beautiful, healthy, thriving earth for those who come after us, that are related to us and not in the greater world. And so perhaps the message here that I'd like to relay as we get ready for this time is whatever you're hoping to bring into this year, into this month, this week, whatever period of time is significant to you, may we plant these intentions with care and with love, but with a willingness to have patience, with a willingness to observe, to have the grace and the pace of what this time and what the journey can offer. I mentioned this, the group, the age group that I'm a part of, and it's something that but I see all of us in our 2024 lifestyles are moving and moving and moving, and I wonder if there's a movement to slow down that we can start to practice collectively, that we can learn from how the trees grow. It doesn't just take a week, it doesn't just take a year, it can take many, many, many years. And I think there's something there, especially when it comes to holding feelings, holding pain, holding fear. It can feel really, when we're in those moments with those feelings, we want it to go right away. And that's understandable. Those things can be hard. And something that our practice on the mat, on the cushion can help us hold is, where can I hold myself in this time, navigating all of this truth in this moment, knowing that it's temporary and having the trust that another day will come. Maybe it will take some time, but a new day is coming, the next moment is coming, the next season is arriving. So I'd like to offer that as we prepare for our meditation today, that maybe there are some seeds that we want to plant for this year, for this Shvat, for ourselves, imagining our own inner garden of the ways that we hope to cultivate deeper love for ourselves, more patience, more presence. Perhaps there's something that we're really working on and creating in our lives, a goal that we're reaching towards, something we hope to create and put forth into the world, being patient with ourselves in that process and holding the trust that it's all coming together. Moving like this isn't going to make it faster. It actually just creates more tension for the nervous system. And so like the trees, knowing that they take their time with the right amount of soil, the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of water, it all comes together. So I'm sharing that from my own personal inner work at this moment of where can we learn from this this incredible environment that we have around us? Where can it inspire us to be more present, more full, and take our time? So wherever you are feeling called to be for our meditation practice, I invite you to get comfortable. And if you'd like the guidance, and you're always available to do whatever feels right for you, I'd like to offer the imagery of your inner garden. You can get comfortable. If you'd like, you can close your eyes. You can find your seat or laying down. Maybe you take a gentle swallow, unclench your jaw. If you're seated, you can roll your shoulders up and back. And if you'd like a visual journey, you can imagine yourself as a garden, your life as a garden. You can see everything that already exists, from the life you've already created and cultivated, the ways that you've been held and supported to make that garden grow to what it is now. And you can see the spaces, this open soil of opportunity where seeds are just waiting to be planted. And perhaps there's something specific that comes to mind of a seed that you'd like to watch grow in this next period of time. We can call that the month of Shvat, or maybe something more long, a year or multiple years. And whatever that is for you, see yourself planting that into the ground with care, covering the soil, adding some water. And then staying there with the seeds, staying there with your soil, with your garden, and offering your prayers of how you'd like to support it in its growth, and giving it the space to grow. And then in your mind's eye, taking a seat back and watching, observing, not turning up the soil to check, is it growing, but rather to sit back and allow, and to see yourself when it's time to go back and just add a little bit of water, add some love, add some intention, and then sit back. And we'll take the next 10 minutes or so to keep imagining this garden, to be with it, to be in silence, to be in observation of all that's possible. And wherever we are, bringing attention to our breath, noticing the inhales and the exhales, following the rise and fall of our chest. Gently bringing some more attention to your body. You can begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, cueing some motion, slow movement back to your bones. Finding your natural rhythm of breath, bringing your awareness back to our space. And you can reach for your hands, your palms meeting in the center. And begin to rub your palms together, building some warmth in your hands, generating some energy into our soil, energy from the sun for everything to bloom with intention and love and patience. And then softly separating your hands and placing your palms over your eyes, gently fluttering the eyes open to notice the cracks of light around you, slowly welcoming yourself back to the space and coming back to our room together where we began. Wishing us all a meaningful time of growth with patience and joy, and with the trust that it's all happening when it's meant to. Have a beautiful beginning of your month going into Shvat, and thank you to Tevet, thank you to this time for getting us here.
Kimberly, thank you so much. Such a moving and beautiful teaching and practice. At this time, friends, we'll turn to Kaddish Yatom, to Mourner's Kaddish. If you're saying Kaddish for a loved one, if you're marking a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a death, if it's your practice to stand, please rise, whether in body or in spirit. I invite those who are mourning to put names of people you're thinking of today in the chat, so their presence can be with you, can be with us. You can keep those names coming in. Let's gather in our loved ones. I invite mourners to unmute and to join together in the community to respond. Yitgada
Gada, Samira,
Elo Miko Rivata Vishwavata Vinethevata Amaran Bioma Ishloma Rabba Mishmaya Imalane Biom Shalom
Shalom Aleinu
Amen.
El Kol Yoshvim Tevel. Mimeru Amen. May their memories be a blessing. May all those who are in mourning be really embraced with comfort, with support. Thank you, dear ones. For those who are able to stay for some time with Kimberly and question and answer, if you have a question, I invite you to write in the chat in all caps, question, so we can really notice it. What a beautiful teaching. I feel seeds unfurling in my body already. So thank you so much, Kimberly. I know you're in California, is that right?
I share my time between California and El Salvador, and I'm currently in El Salvador at the moment.
Oh, amazing. So I would imagine that what you're experiencing in growth around you is very different from what I'm seeing here in Toronto, where it's
Oh,
sleeting
wow.
right now and cold. And so your teaching evoked such a sense of bringing us into relationship with the places we are, to be able to witness and directly encounter what planting and growing and trusting growth can look like. And I'm not seeing any questions yet, but maybe as a place to start, you talked a lot about patience, and I'm really curious about how we nurture patience when we live in such an impatient culture,
Yes.
a culture of drive and push and accomplishment. And I wonder if there's more that you can say about either what helps you find patience, or for people who feel that sense of buzz, what are some of the textures, what's available to us to help us practice patience?
Absolutely. Well, I'll first start with saying that we're in very different climates right now. It's actually the beginning of summer for us here, and it's very hot, but in a really fresh way. And it's really interesting because it's very common to experience a lack of water during this time. And so I've been thinking a lot about my plants because I have papayas and coconuts, and I don't want them to die. And so it's been effort, it's been work to find sources of water. And I found myself last week feeling anxious, feeling frustrated, feeling at a loss. My poor papayas, where will I find the water? And it was in that experience last week that I did my own self-soothing meditation of, okay, people have lived here for a long time. People know things. We're a resource. We can figure this out. And that's where, for me, the practice of patience and trust has played a big role. And so the question of, well, where do I turn to and what do I do? It's something that I'm learning, and I'm seeing it trickle into the other places in my life. But my first piece of wisdom that I'm gathering is turn to what's around you. Turn to what's in the environment around you, and anything that's been around a while is deeply resilient and has a lot of information there. So that's in land and also in people. And so I've been turning to neighbors that I'm just meeting, or people who know the area and who know the land more than I do, and learning from them. And that's been deeply meaningful. And so wherever you are, turning to the wisdom of others, and also the technology that's within our soil and within the earth is deeply intelligent, and taking some time to trust whatever we might be feeling anything about, trusting that we can discover what we need. And maybe it takes a little bit of openness, being open to asking somebody, or being open to thinking about a different solution. For example, I had been really stuck on this water thing, thinking about this one person who could help me get water. But then if someone said, well, have you tried this? Have you asked somebody else? And it was just so simple. And I was like, oh yeah, I can be unstuck myself. So I share that as an example of the answers might be around us. And so for me, my experience of being here has been on my ancestral land, on my father's side. It's been very meaningful because it is a culture that is deeply tied to the earth, and I'm experiencing a lot of deep remembering of how we can turn to the cycles of nature and just to community to find sources of strength and trust.
Mm. So valuable. As you were talking, it evoked in me such a sense of decentering our sort of atomistic individual problem solving. And you're really inviting us to be in deep relationship with other people, with the chain of sort of ancestry and the wisdom through time, with physical place, so that it's incredible that we possess intelligence, that we have wisdom, but we're always connected. We're always part of something larger. And I find that such a helpful reminder to decenter self as a way of connecting.
And that's normal. That's normal to just be in our little world, but we're not built that way, and certainly not our tradition. Our tradition was built to be interconnected and interwoven.
Beautiful. And that pairing of patience and trust, it's hard to let go of my effort, my figuring out, my problem solving, unless I can sort of soften into trusting something bigger than me. I was very moved when you invited us to offer prayers. You asked what prayers will support our growth. And that too offered, I think, such a beautiful prayer is active, and it's surrender, it's letting go, it's saying, it's not all in my hands. I need to plant the seed, I need to dig. There are all kinds of things that I'm called upon to actively do. And then there's prayer, and then there's the elements. And I wonder if there's anything else that you want to say about prayer practice or ritual, or because you also talked about Tu B'Shvat and what's available to us in those practices, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I answer that question, I was just looking at some of the other questions, and I want to make sure that I address something really important that I'm seeing, if that's okay.
Please do.
It was a question around patience as it relates to the hostages, and I don't want to just pass that by. The conversation that we're having is so present to maybe perhaps the personal and the communal things in our lives. When it comes to human life in profound danger, like what we're seeing, I want to lift what you were saying, Miriam, about the prayer, and it's the answer, right, for the hostages isn't just to wait until they're surrendered. That where every second counts for these lives. We all know this, and so for Noah who shared this question, that you worry about the patience. It's, I think for us to be patient in that time, it's like anxiety inducing, just to even the thought of someone in that state of suffering. So I don't know if patience is the right word there, but prayer can be something that helps us in that active energy, and then the action connected to that of pressing people, leaders who can make waves and make difference, and continuing to share the stories and continuing to be the voices of outrage, of urgency. There are things to be urgent about, and there are things that we need patience on. And I think that's something that I'm pulling apart here. Certain things in our lives, we need to have the patience and the trust. But there are things that require urgency, and protecting human life is one of them. And so I think maybe there's a positive energy from within that motivation of deeply wanting the security and the safety of human life, and using urgency towards that, not towards the things that create anxiety over over our taxes or things that can create the daily anxieties. But let's use that energy and harness it towards that every second counting for the very human lives that we care about. I hope that offers something to you, Noah, because I think we're all finding how to deal with this, because this is beyond difficult. But I'm hoping that prayers and action towards our leaders and sharing stories can help towards that effort.
Very valuable. Thank you for that. It also, I hear in what you're saying that part of our practice is a discernment process.
Sure.
That we need to feel into and explore and ask, toward what things should I be patient, and toward what things should I be awakened and in zrizut, in responsiveness, in quickness. We want to bring different qualities to different situations. There's a question from Mary Ann. How can we access that instant moment of trust at various small hectic moments during our day? Any in the moment hints?
Oof. For me, I can share what's been helpful to me is closing my eyes wherever I am for a moment and remembering that I'm not limited to whatever might be in front of me in that moment. That when I close my eyes, I am me, I'm in my energy, and I have a whole world within me that might be resourced to navigate whatever it is. And I'll close my eyes and I'll take a breath. And it helps interrupt whatever else is going on around me that might be causing distress. And when in that closing of my eyes and in that re-entering my inner world, I remember that I have what I need and I need what I have. And I can find something that will support me in that moment of time. And if it's a question, then I'll open my eyes and say, okay, I need to ask somebody, or I need to research this. But of course that comes with, and I share that in a very vulnerable space, and happy to share, because it's something I've realized through different ups and downs of my life, is that at the end of the day, it starts with a relationship to ourselves. And if I can have a trusting relationship to myself when I am in a space or a situation of, oh my gosh, whoa, I'm overwhelmed, let me come back home and regather some strength and resource and breathe into my being. Remember that I'm here and I can figure it out. Even if I don't have the answer right now, there's ground beneath me, and I have my strong bones and my beating heart, and I'm here. That's just something that's helped me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So at this time, we need to close. I want to say, Kimberly, thank you so much for your deep teachings, for your practice. I wish you blessings of water to your papayas and to everybody there in El Salvador. And thank you again, Jordan, for holding our tech space. And thank you to everyone here for your presence and your practice. Take good care, everyone.